All right. You're listening to America's Voice now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host here. I'm glad to have you on board. You know, the situation in Connecticut is getting ugly, and we're going to talk about it this segment because the truth is this could well be the opening shot across the bow of a secondary civil war in the United States of America. Why do I say that? Well, let me clarify it for you. First and foremost, Mike Vanderboegh, he wrote a letter on the 15th of February, and he wrote it as an open letter to the men and the women of the Connecticut State Police. He titled it, "You are not the enemy unless you choose to be." He sent it to 1,200 email addresses. He got 62 that bounced back. The rest of them got it. It's a clear and definitive statement that those people who choose to do as they're told versus do as their Constitution tells them will be on the front lines and will be the first to fall in a new battle between the government, whether that's state and or federal, and the people. Try and take the guns, Connecticut, and see what happens. You're going to begin the process of watering the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots and tyrants. I pray that you reconsider, as you've been asked to do by Connecticut Carry. Connecticut Carry just issued a statement and a press release on March 3rd. It's to the officials of the state of Connecticut, and here's what they say. Either enforce or repeal the 2013 anti-gun laws. It's time for you, the state, to enforce the tyranny you passed or to repeal it entirely. It starts out with a pretty serious kick-butt statement. It says, a recent media tidal wave based on false reports and bad journalism has proven a few things about the 2013 gun ban. People from Connecticut and around the nation are tired of being threatened, are ready to make a stand, and the state of Connecticut does not have the stomach to enforce the edicts and laws with which they threaten gun owners. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the truth. We, the people, we, the citizens, are tired of being threatened, not just about guns. We're tired of being threatened and coerced. We're tired of being threatened to do things at the point of a gun, including signing up for something as unconstitutional as Obamacare, including being forced at the point of a gun to sign up for that, obviating and eliminating and waiving our Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, not willingly, but by coercion at the point of a gun. A gun held by, of all people, of all agencies, of all groups, the IRS. You got to be flippin' kidding. This press release goes on to say, gun-hating officials now have their laws on the books in Connecticut. They dreamed up these laws in their tyrannical dystopia. But it was not the majority of the public that supported such laws. Despite all of the severe legal language that the government passed, there is still no open discussion of enforcing those tyrannical laws as they stand. Throughout the legislature and the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, there is only talk of, quote, amnesty, and possibly boiling the frog at a slower rate. Let me tell you something, America. Do not fall for the boil the frog concept. Make these traitors do their worst and force their hand. Make them implement the laws they have passed, live by them themselves, and let the chips fall where they may. Whether it be Obamacare, whether it be gun rights, whether it be your civil rights, it's time to make them stand up and dare attempt to implement the tyranny that they have thrown in your face. You know why? because they'll be exposed immediately. They will be exposed in a way which will make it clear to both them and you that we are the power, we are the people, they work for us. I have to tell you, I am tired of hearing that you're going to do this and you're going to do that and we're going to use the law to make you do it. You know, a law passed by a tyrant is no law at all. It is of no force or effect, and it is null and void on its face. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of Thomas Jefferson. And I'll take his word over any politician's word any day of the week, any minute of the day. It is time to force these tyrants to do what they say they're going to do. Force them to show their cowardice. Force them to back off their position. You want to fight? That's how you fight them. You force them to do what they say they're going to do. And when the American people realize their true intent, they will give it back to them in spades. Not just at the election booth. They'll give it back to them in spades. If they try to take these guns, they will open up a second civil war in the United States. I'm telling you right now. Here's why. The truth is that we now know for a fact that there are some 350,000 weapons in Connecticut. And out of those 350,000 weapons that were in Connecticut, only somewhere around 50,000 people registered. So if that's in fact the case, that means there are 250,000 people out there, or 300,000, depending upon whether they're talking about guns or magazines. And those people are contrary to the law and are now felons. So here's how it's going to work. If they attempt to go out there and take 320,000 guns, or 320,000 gun owners, somebody, statistically speaking, somebody's going to lose blood. And I'm here to tell you that when that happens, all bets are off and this thing is going to blow up nationally. It should blow up nationally because it's time for them to be held accountable. 320,000 Patriot Connecticut gun owners tell their state tyrants, come and get them if you dare. That's the number of patriots who refuse to follow the orders of the state tyrants. Now, they've made threats. They've made threats that they will imprison you, charge you with a felony, strip you of your human rights over a law that has no foundation for existence. Their arrogance and their hubris and their sense of entitlement make it blow back in their face. Americans across the board, make them know how you feel. Make them know how you'll act. The truth is, we are looking here at the opening gambit of a totalitarian regime that seeks to destroy your right to be able to defend and protect yourself, your home, your family, your community, your state, and your nation. Not from only violent criminals, not only from those who would seek to take that which you have earned and worked for, but those who would seek to do so with a pen instead of a weapon. Those who would take what you have, not because they are criminals in the sense that most people think of criminals, but they are criminals nonetheless. There's a lot of people who say to me, you know, you are too hard on politicians. No, I'm not. You see, that's the mistake. The rest of you aren't hard enough. Those who say to me that, well, most politicians, no, they're not. Most politicians are not good. In fact, the number of politicians that are good is so infinitesimal, it's hardly worthy of note. Are you a politician and you heard that, and now you're furious, the blood is rushing to your face, and you are angry? Good. Because this is a direct challenge to you statists, you tyrants, you self-glamorizing, cutthroat, carpetbagging scum. We've had enough. We've had enough of you. We've had enough of your games. We don't want to play. But bring it on, because you see, you've locked us in a game. You've locked us in a game we can't leave. We can't get up and walk away from the table. You've forced our hand. You've cuffed us to the chair and forced us to play. We don't want violence. In fact, the truth is, we don't even want the verbal battle. But we can't go down into that dark night quietly. You know, the truth is, we have plenty of information and knowledge about where and how this happens and why it's happening. The simple truth is that our founders told us everything that we needed to know. Evil exists. And it triumphs because good men do nothing. Well, when you force the hand of 320,000 Connecticut good men and women, you're going to see where this takes you. And I guarantee you, you're not going to like the result. So bring it on. Let's see what you got. You want a battle in this country that's going to make something like Afghanistan and Al-Qaeda look like a brush fire, go right ahead. You see, this is a nation that you will never defeat that way. The estimated number of firearms in this country is 500 million. There are enough weapons in this nation to arm every man, woman, and child. You want to take them all? Come and get them. Those that don't have will be redistributed to. We're going to turn the principle of redistribution on its head. Come on. Bring it on. Oh, I know. You got plenty of little ploys. You got plenty of little frog in the pot concepts. Well, we'll just do this slowly. In New Jersey, and I posted this up on our Facebook yesterday, they've got a brand new law they're trying to push through. These legislators got caught on a hot mic in a discussion. And you know what they said? We need laws that will confiscate, confiscate, confiscate. Stop pretending, America, that that's not their intent. Don't listen to their words. Look at their actions. Do they care about little Johnny and little Bobby in a school? No! What they care about is disarming you so that they may do their worst. Do they think actively that way? Do they consciously believe that's their intention? Of course not. Most minions of tyrants never do. But you know what? There is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than a tyrant who actually believes that they are so in the right that they know better than you what is right for you. You can continue to delude yourself, America. You can continue to say, well, the majority aren't really like that. That's not really what they mean. That's not what they're trying to do. They're just worried about little Johnny and little Bobby being shot in a school. Think so? So let's put it to you the right way. Since 9/11, more Americans have been killed by law enforcement than died in the entire Iraqi war. Does that number not give you pause? You can continue to sit here and pretend that it's all going to be okay. Or you can stand up and you can make a tyrant do what he threatened. And when they do, you let them have it. Good and hard. You see, that's how bullies get pushed back. This press release was excellent. It's fairly short. I wish I had time to read Mike Vanderboegh's entire letter. It's 16,000 words. I should probably read it and just do it as a recorded segment, just so that you'll have an opportunity to hear it. The officials of the state of Connecticut either enforce or repeal the 2013 anti-gun laws. It's time for the state to enforce the tyranny they passed, or repeal it entirely. Recent media tidal wave based on false reports and bad journalism have proven a few things about the 2013 gun ban. People from Connecticut and around the nation are tired of being threatened, are ready to make a stand, and the state of Connecticut does not have the stomach to enforce the edicts and laws with which they threaten gun owners. For years, Undersecretary Mike Lawler, the upper levels of the state police, and Governor Dannell Malloy have sought to disarm those whom they fear. The laws they passed show that they fear constitutionally and lawfully armed citizens, despite thousands of gun owners showing up at each legislative session expecting to be heard by their representatives. Government officials seized upon public panic related to the Newtown massacre as a means to exert legislative and executive fiats intent upon disarming gun owners who have harmed no one. The Connecticut executive and legislative branches showed their cowardice when they installed metal detectors and armed guards at the entrances to the legislative office building only for firearm-related hearings. Gun-hating officials now have their laws on the books in Connecticut. They dreamed up these laws in their tyrannical dystopia, but it was not the majority of the public that supported such law. Despite all the severe legal language that the government has passed, there is still no open discussion of enforcing these tyrannical laws as they stand. Throughout the legislature and the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, there is only talk of amnesty and possibly boiling the frog at a slower rate. It comes as no surprise that the talks of relaxing enforcement expectations go along with legislators trying to get their re-election deadlines. If the anti-gun laws they passed are so good for everyone in this state, then why are elected officials requesting increased security, both at the LOB and at their private homes? The anti-gun legislators and officials are scared to implement their tyranny because they know that they did not have any sort of consent of the governed. Those officials violated their oath of office as the executive and legislative branches of our Connecticut government overstepped their moral and constitutional responsibilities by passing those laws. They acted and voted contrary to the rights and against our Constitution. Now state officials look down the barrel of the laws they created, and it is very probable that they now tremble as they rethink the extremity of their folly. Connecticut Carry calls on every state official, every senator, and every representative to make the singular decision: either enforce the laws that they have written and let us fight it out in court, or else repeal the 2013 gun ban in its entirety. As many media sources have pointed out, there is very little compliance with the new edicts, and there is absolutely no way for the state to know who is obeying the law or not. State officials have made their bluff, and Undersecretary Lawler has made his position clear that the state will enforce the law. We say, bring it on. The officials of the state of Connecticut have threatened its citizens by fiat. They have roared on paper, but they have violated principle. Now it's time for the state to man up, either enforce its edict or else stand down and return to the former laws that did not so violently threaten the citizens of this state. There is nothing that will so completely destroy faith in those edicts faster than the state-provoked chaos and violence that will be required to enforce the 2013 anti-gun laws. Connecticut residents should not have to live in perpetual fear of the jackboot coming down on them. Unenforced, frequently repeated threats fall on deaf ears. By passing laws that they cannot or choose not to enforce, state officials tell the public that this state is ignorant, immoral, blind, and impotent in its legal and decision-making processes. The passage of such foolishly conceived, insufferable laws is an affront to every law-abiding citizen. Every official who supports such legal foolishness mocks our state and the Constitution they swore to uphold. If the state does not have the stomach to enforce these laws, then the legislature has until May 7, 2014, to completely repeal these immoral edicts and let the residents of Connecticut return to their rightfully owned property and former exercise of constitutional rights and practices without any threat of state violence. From Governor Malloy to Undersecretary Lawler to DESPP, Commissioner Shiro, and Lieutenant Cook of the Firearms Unit, and including Lieutenant Paul Vance, the state needs to, quote, poop, and I can't use the right word, or get off the pot. The fact is the state does not have the balls to enforce these laws. The laws would not survive the public outcry and resistance that would occur, end quote. Connecticut Carry Director Ed Peruta. If officials of the state of Connecticut opt to get froggy, jumping on citizens, and start to enforce the new laws, as officials have claimed a desire to do, Connecticut Carry stands ready to do whatever it takes and whatever it can do to represent and defend anyone impacted by the state's violence. As citizens of Connecticut, we have a right to bear arms. With that right comes responsibility. The responsibility to stand in defense of ourselves and our fellow citizens is paramount. Connecticut Carry President Rich Burgess. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Connecticut is in a crisis. A constitutional, moral, ethical, legal, and principled crisis. Watch closely what happens there. This spring will determine whether or not the state backs down or they kick off the second civil war in America. Mark my words. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a quick break. Video will break for 1 minute. When we come back, we'll talk about how this is, the firearms are under attack, not only here in the United States, but across the world. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. Email me at Mike at America's Voice Now. That's Mike at americasvoicenow.org.